Hello, Frank. How's it going?
Happy Friday, Amanda. How are you doing today?
I'm great because today we're going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is content.
Content.
I am excited to talk about content. I actually was just talking with one of our team members about how it kind of feels like a lot of inbound content is really struggling and that people don't really know what to like. It's starting to get really inundated in certain industries, and it's hard to stand out and have content that actually works because there's so much information out there now. So excited today to talk with you about how like you have a magic formula that helps create content that actually works. So I want to know a little bit more about it. Um, but why are we even talking about this today?
I think that the topic of content, and for anyone who doesn't know, yes, I work on a lot of brand strategy, but part of brand strategy is content. And I actually used to be the director of content here and elsewhere. And so content is a huge aspect of that. And here's the thing though, content is talked about a ton. If you're in marketing at all, content has been the conversation of like the last 10 years, if not more, to a lot of people. And they're totally right. It has been talked about a ton, and I would agree with that. But I think the issue or the challenge for most people is all those conversations are around why it's important, like why it's critical, why you should have it, what the value of it is in your business. And that's all like true. But very few conversations around it tell people exactly how to do it. Outside of maybe, hey, here's a keyword research tool you should be using for SEO. As you and I both know, SEO or like keyword research is really just aimed at maybe a percentage of what content should be and is not for everyone at every brand at every
Mhm.
stage. And
Yeah,
so I really had just been thinking, hey, this is something we've done for tons of clients, but people always seem to have questions around. And so I thought,
mhm.
well, why not talk about it? Because I think it could be really helpful.
I really like that, and I think it's important to share your knowledge too. Absolutely, you've helped create a lot of content that's really worked for people and for our clients. So awesome. All right, let's get to it. What's the solution?
We talk about content in
Mhm.
sometimes really complex ways, and looking. I think data is great. We're a pretty data driven agency. I think most anyone in digital marketing should be, but really it comes down to maybe getting on the conversation a little bit more. And sometimes it's a lot simpler than that. And really, what it is the way to ensure that you're creating content that works for your brand is, I'd say, first is ensure that it adds value and serves your ideal user or customer
Mhm.
in a way that adds value to the role, especially if you're a B2B company, if you're serving other companies. How are you adding value to their role? And so a keyword of that is ideal user or customer, not anyone
Mhm.
in the world. And that may sound simpler than it is, but really looking at it from your ideal user. Um, and then also in a way that's driving people to become aware of your product or services. I think common mistakes that we see is talking either about topics that have very little relevance to your product or service, or going way too far on the other end of the spectrum of creating content that's all about your product or service.
Yeah.
And the place that content lives, both of those tend to be mistakes. And so the solution is really figuring out, okay, who are these ideal customers? And that's why I figured out, or at least put together, a little simple formula for both our clients and even people that we've trained on our teams. Like, hey, here's how to think through
Mhm.
content really simply to come up with topics that resonate and actually impact the brand on the bottom line. So,
I really like that. And I think we talk about this a lot, but the solution, and I know we haven't gotten quite to the formula yet, but the solution is really thinking about your user.
mhm.
It's not
Well,
thinking about your company first. It's about thinking about your user and not necessarily like, well, what information can I put out there that makes our company look good? But it's really what information can you put out there that helps your customer, whether it's work with you or work with another, um, even work with one of your competitors, just like help them come to a decision. And that's really what's going to be good. And also
yeah,
understanding what they need.
yeah.
Um, so next then, what is this formula?
The formula. I feel like I should set expectations that it's really not that amazing because it's not, but it has been really helpful. I think logistically it's helpful. And so the formula is just this. It's really driven by a couple of key questions. The first is, who is the ideal user or customer? And that may seem really obvious, but we'll talk about that in a second. The second is, what do they need to do the job better as it relates to your offering? And the third is, where are they looking for those answers? So going through that, again, who is the ideal user or customer? The reason this is important is because it flows into the rest of the formula. So if your ideal user or customer, let's say for a SaaS-based company that does, explainer videos, it's a platform that does explainer videos. You're trying to think through, well, who is the user of that? Who's going to be really engaging with that product the most? And so most of the time, that's going to be someone like a mid-level marketer or a content creator, could be entry level, could be mid-level. But generally, you're not speaking to a CMO, right? Unless you're talking through the buying decision. But even then, it's likely the content creator that's championing that product forward. And so you want to figure out, okay, that's our ideal user or customer. We're not trying to talk to someone who's not using the product. Whereas on the other hand, if you're a marketing agency like us, be totally transparent, at the point where we're looking to work to people when it comes to like strategic conversations and things like that, our user is likely much more a CEO, a CMO, some C-suite level individual, maybe even a marketing director or someone like that. And really the things that they're concerned about, exactly, yeah, are going to be different than what, a mid-level marketer is concerned about tactically. And both are great, but being aware of that is really critical. And so the first question, go ahead.
I really like that. And I even think like, even at our marketing agency, when we are looking at technology and things like that, usually our CEO is not the one that's out there looking for the best design platform. The designers are the ones that bubble up. This is the platform that we should use because it's the best platform. And this is what it costs. And this is what it would mean for our business. Exactly. So I think it's really, like you said, to keep your ideal user in mind, not even necessarily your ideal decision maker. Because even for us, like when we're vetting, a client, oftentimes the decision maker, not always, but oftentimes the decision maker is our main point of contact. Yeah. And so they end up becoming the end user too.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I would attest to that as well. Even, when I was in more so director level in content, it was me looking for certain products and coming to, Tyler, our CEO, and say, hey, I think this is a really good idea. Do that. But to be honest, yes, I'm thinking as a director level, you're thinking about the company, but you're also thinking about how this is just going to impact my team and the day-to-day and things like that. So the information is going to be different. So, okay, first part, who is the ideal user or customer? Second question, using the same examples, what does the customer need to do their job better as it relates to your offering? So again, in a B2B space, using those same examples, if we have a SaaS-based company that does explainer videos and your user is a mid-level marketer or content creator, what do they need to know as it relates to that type of product? So not necessarily, hey, here's why, explainer videos are great, but other things around what key elements make successful videos, how to write a script, how to create simple, visuals or graphics, or how to do a voiceover, how long should a video be, right? It's all these questions that surround your core product. It's not about the core, the product itself. Yep. And it's not irrelevant to the product either, but they're questions that kind of circulate and surround your product. So that way your product is actually the kind of center glue point that holds that together. And then likewise, right, if it was a marketing agency or CMO, they're probably looking for strategic insight or industry trends or use cases or success stories or useful tools, right? They're thinking at a level where, hey, we just need this to work for our bottom line. So what have you done? What are the things that other people have done that have been successful for their entire company? Cultural things, other things like that. And so that's when we're answering the question, what do they need to do their job better as it relates to what you offer? And then third, where are they looking for answers? Again, same examples, mid-level marketer, content creator. If they're looking for tactical answers, likely they're going to Google. And so that's where you probably want to have a much heavier keyword research strategy, SEO strategy, where you're trying to rank really, really highly. Whereas, a C-suite individual, yes, they're probably going to Google for stuff. Our C-suite, our leadership team looks on Google all day, I'm sure, for certain things. For a lot of other things, they probably get their information maybe probably more from podcasts or push style media or a trusted newsletter or an industry media source or publication, right? Because they're not, could you imagine a CEO going on Google and typing in like, how do I create a new revenue stream? They may do that. That may be a percentage a little bit, but I hope they wouldn't be in that role if they're generally like Googling how to create a revenue stream. They're more wanting to hear stories and insights and strategies from other people who have done it. And usually they're getting that from an inbound source coming into them for a majority of the time. So I hope that's clear. But just to reiterate those three questions, that formula, who is your ideal customer or user? what do they need to do their job better as it relates to your offering, and where are they looking for answers? You can answer those 3 things. You'll have a good start in creating content.
That is pretty simple and straightforward, but why would you say that works so well?
Well, I think it addresses challenges and questions your ideal user is already thinking about, right? If they're thinking about your product, they're probably thinking about the questions that surround that product. And so you're hitting them in areas that they're already concerned with, they're already interested in. And so it's bridging the gap between where they are right now and where they would be if they were using your product. And it's doing it in a way that positions your product or service as the variable or solution that they need in order to fulfill those questions, right? I know you said don't start with your brand in mind, which you don't. You start with their needs in mind, but by doing that, you're kind of tying together, you're bridging the gap between your product and their needs. And so I think that's honestly why it works. It actually drives people towards your product. You know, if I'm that explainer video SaaS company and I have content that's saying, here's how to create a video script, there's going to be plenty of relevant opportunities for me to bridge the gap between writing a video script and the tool you need to actually create an explainer video, right? And so you're driving people towards your product, but starting in a place that they're already interested in.
Well, and one thing I just want to mention about that too is like if a brand is putting out content, the user expects the brand to ask something. And it's not inappropriate to do that. And so I think that's one of the things that's super important to remember is like, it's okay to ask for something at the end of your video or at the end of your blog or at the end of your podcast or whatever it is. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it's relevant, it's likely a lot more warranted or even welcomed than if it was like, hey, we're talking about National Hot Dog Day, but hey, we're a finance company.
Yes.
Like, this has nothing to do with what I'm looking for, right? So the more relevant it is, the more opportunity you're going to have to do that, and the more welcomed it's going to be because they're probably looking for something like that. So yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Cool. Frank, it was really good to talk with you today. Super enlightening.
It is always good to talk with you. Love talking about this stuff.
Me too.
No.
Awesome. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks. Bye, Amanda.